I became a full-time club promoter while having no experience and no connection at age 24. Here's how I made it happen. Before we get into it, I want to say that at the time I had no idea what I was doing. It kind of happened to me because I made the right circumstances happen to me, but I was not aware that I was putting myself in the right circumstances. Still, this happened to me and now I understand why it happened. So I think my story can be useful in understanding how to do the same. So it all happened when I moved to a new city and I basically only knew one person in this city. At the time, I had made the decision to work hard on improving my social skills. One of my goals was to go out every night and practice meeting people. So I asked this only one friend of mine where was the best club in town to go and practice meeting people. So I started going out to that place and I really wanted to develop my social skills fast. So I went out literally every day. In going there every day, I started to know people and people started to recognize me. I made friends with the regulars at the place, but I also started to befriend the staff who was working there. Again, I had no idea what I was doing at the time. I was just saying hi to those people because I was seeing them a lot. So it's interesting to see how you can develop a social circle naturally just by putting yourself in the right situation. But it's also important to understand that you can create your own social circle on command once you understand the right fundamentals. This is how I befriended the whole club. I would go there to practice working on my social skills and I would approach girls. Naturally, not every girl I would talk to would end up sleeping with me, so I made friend. By sharing the fun and by approaching a ton of people, everyone was starting to know me. The very first time I went to this club, it was a Sunday, and naturally on a Sunday it was empty, so there were basically 5 people drinking and then the people working in the bar. Since my goal at the time was to practice my social skills and because the place was, well, fucking empty, I just talked to everybody. And this is how I had my first touch with the people who worked there. And it's very important to get noticed by the people who work there because, well, they are there all the time. And it's very simple to do. You go there when there is not a lot of people, when it's not busy, and you chit chat with the bartender because he has nothing else to do and because he's fucking bored out of his mind. It's very easy to make him love, to make him feel some good emotions and to take him out of his boredom. And so the second time I came back to the place, it was extremely busy. It was a Saturday night, so many people you couldn't walk around. And when I went to order a beer, the bartender remembered me. He remembered I was the guy who talked with him the day before. Add some value to the people who work there. It's very important because when people who work there remember you, you go up in the social hierarchy of the place. And you will see it's important that the right person in the venue knows about you so that when they need a promoter, for instance, they think immediately about you. And then since everybody else in the place knows you, since all the regulars in the place know you and appreciate you, you're the obvious choice when this person is in need of a promoter or when this person is in need of anything else. So if everybody working in the club knows about you and appreciates you, and if everybody coming regularly to the club knows you and appreciates you, this is when you will be, well, the obvious choice. Anyways, the coming days and the coming weeks, I kept coming back to this place because on one hand, the more I was coming there, the more comfortable I was actually being there, the more the place felt like my home and the more comfortable I was approaching girls and practicing my social skills, but also because I really liked the place. And I think those two main elements are important. Every promoter I talked to in my life, because I met a ton of them after I got that job, told me that they either wanted to quit their promoter job because they hated the place or they loved their promoter job because they loved the place they worked at. And I will share a little bit more about that later, but being a club promoter is not just sparkles and glamour. For now, I'm just coming back to the place and I'm burning the place down to the ground every time I come there. Every time I go, I'm approaching at least 10 girls, and not just, hi, how are you, you're funny, haha, do you want to sleep with me, like actual approaches. I'm running my sets for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 2 hours. Really, the people who go there, they get to know me, they get to experience me. I become, quote unquote, that guy in the club, in the sense that, well, when people see me from afar, even if they don't know me yet, they know that I am that guy who's fun and who comes here often. Where I'm getting at with this is that I built a reputation for myself in the place. Not a crazy reputation, not that I'm this famous guy who's so amazing, but just I am a guy who comes here often and was noticeable. And again, it's not very hard since I did this not even on purpose. Like, my goal was not even to have people notice me or remember me. My goal was just to go often and approach a lot of people. Eventually, I created meaningful relationship with some of the people who were regulars there. And this is, by the way, how I started my social circle in that city. A very funny story. I approached this girl who I thought was cute from afar, and actually from up close, she was not that cute. So I was about to walk away, but her friend who saw me the previous night was actually quite into me. Too bad that the friend was not really my type. Either way, we started talking like that. We had a blast. Honestly, the conversation was very funny. We exchanged contacts. Then I invited them again the following week to have pre-game, to have some drinks before going to the club, because they were really fun girls. They brought more people to that pre-game, and basically this is how my social circle started expanding exponentially. So after going to this place for a few weeks now, I had everybody working in the place know of me. I had everybody being a regular in this place know of me, and I had a solid group of friends who I would go to this place almost every day with. I didn't mention it before, but there was already a promoter at this place, and I talked to her a few times, and one night she comes to me and she's like, "Oh, hey Max, we are looking to hire more promoters. Do you know of anyone?" I was like, yeah, maybe if I find some people, I will introduce them to you. One of my friends comes by and she says, "Hey Max, why don't you become a promoter? You talk to everyone." I was like, oh shit, why not? So I told the current promoter of that club that I would apply and become a promoter, because why not? I was already going there every day. I was already going there and approaching everyone. I was also approaching people outside of the club that I was already inviting back to the club. Why not get paid to do exactly the same? And that's how I became 1 week later the new club promoter at that place. And I didn't think it would change much from what was happening to me and what I was doing before. And actually I was wrong. My job as a promoter there was to approach every single person coming to the club, to add them to the social media page of the club, and to also organize events to meet people outside of the club and to bring them back to the place. I would get paid a base salary, and I would get paid every time the people I brought back to the club would buy a table or would buy bottles and stuff. Because it's funny, people think being a club promoter is just about partying and drinking and fucking bitches. It's a business. If you don't bring back clients, you're gonna get fired. I was quite really incentivized to make friends with wealthy people and to bring them back to the place so they would buy expensive bottles. I remember this one time I randomly met this older woman on Tinder, and she was so wealthy, and I didn't even want to invite her to the place at first, but she really wanted to come see me at work. After sleeping with her once, I didn't really want to see her again, but I kind of forced myself to see her again, because every time she would come to the club she would spend like $500 on bottles, and like I would get a percentage of that. So yeah, a few funny and awkward stories like that. I had a lot of people come up to me and befriend me and adding me to their social circle just because I was that promoter guy, and this is a nice networking opportunity that they had by being friends with me. There were guys who were asking me advice on picking up girls. There were guys who were asking me advice on becoming a club promoter. There were guys who were admiring me. I think there is a lot of mystique around this image of the club promoter. I happened to befriend other club promoters working in other clubs around the city, and those people were as well connected, so it was a very easy and convenient way for me to get access to even more connections. Instantly, over a few weeks, I knew all the club promoters in every club around the city, and I had access to the nice relationships those people had with other interesting people all around the city. Needless to say, my position in my own personal social circles increased a lot. All my personal social circles exponentially became bigger, because people knew that if they were friends with the club promoter, they would have access to more benefits. I didn't grow up as a rich guy, so I never experienced before what it was like to have people come to you because they know about your situation and they basically want some piece of that cake. And it was very, very funny to me to see how this social dynamic was happening there. People coming up to me and offering drinks to me, people I never heard about, hot girls and models coming up to me and being like, oh, hey, Max, I've heard about you, come drink with us. It opened my eyes on what people really find value in when they go out at night. It opened my eyes to the fact that I may be a fucking amazing guy with a super cool personality, super fun, super outgoing, but it doesn't matter that much. Like, people don't really care about that when they go to the club. When people go to the club, though, they care about knowing the guy who knows everyone, knowing the guy who has access to the drinks, and knowing the guy who can basically get them behind a DJ in the VIP booth. So, swallowing the pill and accepting this harsh reality, I was now in a social circle of models and wealthy people that would come see me every day at the club. This dynamic is really interesting to see because I met some Russian models when I was doing this job, and I met those same Russian models 2 years later in Bangkok, totally different place, totally different club. They remembered me, but at the time my social value was way lower because I was not the promoter in that club, I was a random client. And they literally refused to talk with me because talking with a simple clients of that club would lower their social value because they were like hot models. 2 years before, when I was a club promoter, those girls were chasing me to, talk to me, and they were laughing at everything I would say. Really interesting social dynamics right there. So basically, being a club promoter increased my SMV, at least in this environment, by quite a lot. This helped me meet, sleep, and date with international models. I have to say, having some game with those girls was still useful. I remember this Russian girl who I met by telling her "you're a dog" in Russian, and she found it so funny because every guy was simping for her. And then there is this club promoter who just comes up to her in her native tongue to tell her "you're a dog." So yeah, that was really funny. There was also this New Year's party when the club was extremely full. Like, you had to book your tickets to go to that club 1 month in advance, or you couldn't come inside. And there was this girl from Hong Kong who just came up to me and she was straight, "Oh my god, you're so fucking hot. I wanna suck your dick. Let me get inside the club, please." And I was a little bit dumb. At the time, I was not really understanding the social dynamics of what was happening, so I basically helped her get in through the back door. As soon as she was inside, she totally stopped chasing for my interest or my validation or whatever. She barely responded when I would talk to her. But I'm not hating, because once you understand those dynamics, you can actually play with those dynamics to get to what you want. And in the end, you are the one who's going to decide who gets the value and what value you get in return. But anyways, that's pretty much it for my experience being a club promoter. Eventually I got fired because I spent most of my time talking to, not wealthy clients, but instead pretty girls who didn't bring a lot of money to the clubs, but did bring me a very, very amazing dating life for a time. And also, I didn't really care about quitting this job because nobody talks about that, but your health takes a huge toll. Like, being a club promoter is the main reason why I stopped drinking, because before becoming a club promoter, I was a skinny guy. After being a club promoter for 6 months plus, I was a skinny fat guy, totally sleep deprived, smoking cigarettes like a fireman. I don't know if that makes sense in English, but I was really having terrible health. And this is not something that you can really sustain unless you're extremely disciplined. And then by that point, like, why being a club promoter if you have to be extremely disciplined? Like, there are better ways to make money, have a great social life, and not screw up your health. Because you might think, oh, I'm gonna be a club promoter, but I'm not going to drink, I'm not going to smoke, I'm not going to do drugs, I'm not going to do anything. But that's the thing, when you're put in such a social environment and you're supposed to be the engine of that social environment, everyone is gonna give you drinks, everyone is gonna give you smokes, everyone's gonna give you drugs, and sometimes you will have to be the one sharing the drinks, sharing the drugs, sharing the smokes, and that's part of why people like you. So if you go there and you're like, oh, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do nothing, it's gonna be a little bit awkward. People won't really find that much value in being around you. In the end, it's an experience that I recommend, but probably not as your main activity and probably not something that you will do long term.